Hey, good morning, everybody. How we doing? Good. We're going to need a lot more interaction than that. Are you guys ready? Oh, good. It's a big game today. We got to get warmed up. We got to get ready to go. We're going.
Absolutely. And you might be surprised to see me up here, but no, it is week 2 of Marriage Playbook. Really, why I'm here is because I feel like there's a little bit of story correction that needs to happen. If you were here last week for said shark encounter story from our honeymoon and then also our 10th anniversary.
Yeah, both times when you tried to kill me. Yeah.
But here is my thought on it. There is a time for survival of the fittest, right? So my thought was, I will survive if the shark fits him in his mouth. So there's that. Also, there's a time for self-preservation. And so I do think I should receive, accolades for my self-preservation. No. In fact, this week, I went self-preservation mode as we left the chiropractor's office. And my child climbed into the front seat of a car that was not the car we drove to the chiropractor. And as she climbed in, I'm screaming, "That's not our car! That's not our car! That's not our car!"
Which normally in a typical circumstance would be the right thing to yell, except what she didn't notice was that it's a car that she co-owns, and I parked right next to her, and I was in the driver's seat. And so my kid was getting into my car right next to hers. So
I didn't even notice the license plate that has our initials on it.
Further proof that she
Thrive
doesn't read
sticker.
signs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know. Hey, listen, we love talking marriages. We love doing series on marriages because we really do believe, both of us believe that a healthy marriage will change your life. It'll change your perspective on the world around you. It will model the gospel of Jesus. If you were here last week, we talked a lot about how the way that you love your spouse should show the world around you a picture of Jesus and his love for the church. And so we really want to respect and honor and help build up marriages to the best of our abilities. And we know that in a good marriage, you got a good playbook. You've got good plays that you can run, you can help, you can build up and can encourage each other. But we could all use help to keep refining those plays and to make better plays in our marriage. So that's what we want to do through this series.
And if you're not married, we still want you to pay attention because what we are going to talk about applies to 100% of your relationships. It has everything to do with relationships. So please make sure you stay tuned, even if you're like, well, I'm not married, so I guess I'm done. Not really. All right, so we're going to start in Ecclesiastes. And Ecclesiastes 4:9 is probably a verse you guys have heard many times before. It says, 2 are better than 1 because they have a good return for their labor.
Which is an excellent verse, and it's where we started last week. And it's a good reminder for all of us that in our marriages, working together is always going to provide more fruit. It's going to be more beneficial than if we try to work individually or do things on our own. Our family, we take that and we turn it into a motto of our own. And so you may or may not know this quote. Teamwork makes the teamwork is exactly how that quote should go. Because it's true every time. Nobody knows what your dream is, but I do know what a team is, so teamwork makes the teamwork.
Our other family motto is hydrate or dihydrate.
Which is a good motto. You know who would approve of that? Any good play gets approval of Miss Taylor Swift. She says, well done, guys, well done. So welcome in. Listen, if you're not ready to see Taylor, you're not ready for Super Bowl Sunday.
Right.
Get ready. We're just trying to get you ready, okay, guys? We're trying to get you ready.
Okay, so even though we know that 2 are better than 1, why does it feel like sometimes that's not the case? Sometimes it feels like, no, 1 is better than 2, right? I know that I cannot be the only person in this room who's thought before, you know what, I'm just going to do it by myself, right? I don't need a second person. I'm fine on my own. But in our marriages and in our relationships, what that then turns into is 1 versus 1, and that is never what we are called to be, right? 2 is stronger than 1. So how do we get to that place where it's 1 versus 1? It's kind of challenging. And when you look at, when we talk about marriages, really you've got an imperfect person married to another imperfect person.
Not in this case.
I mean, obviously.
I married a perfect one.
Hypothetically.
The rest of you.
Hypothetically. Right? But that's a recipe for imperfections. And a lot of times we go into marriage or we wake up in the morning thinking, this is the day we're going to nail it. This is the day that our marriage is going to be perfect. But it is literally 2 imperfect people married together. That is what is going to happen.
Yeah, and with 2 imperfect people, sometimes what you get as you're trying to run plays, as you're trying to do married life together, sometimes you get into broken plays where you try something and it just doesn't work. And sometimes in relationships, we see this more often than not. you get caught in a loop of broken plays. Like, here's this broken play that didn't work last time, but let's go ahead and try it again. And maybe it'll work this time. And you keep trying over and over again. We get ourselves stuck in these situations where we're just caught in a broken play. And we want to give you a couple examples, okay? So here's one. This is an everyday morning picture in my house, okay? This is every morning, top of the morning. I am here. Listen, let's just be real, okay? I'm here with the love of my life in this picture. The absolute love of my life. Right here inside of this cup is the love of my life. And I'm just trying to enjoy my love in the morning and just soak it up and live it up. And what I have still yet to figure out is how to enjoy that while simultaneously hearing anything that's coming this direction. So I'm working on that. Right now, it's not so successful.
Yeah, see, so for me, in order to feel love, I'm going to have to, this is all the words coming out of my mouth, right? And this one...
Hold on, you need a few more lines in there.
Okay, let me put that in there.
Yeah.
Right there, right?
That's
right?
That's
because
more realistic.
I love to talk, and I love words of affirmation. So in the morning, there are already 17 things that I forgot to tell him about yesterday that I need to make sure he knows about before I leave for the day. Because if I don't get those 17 things out, I cannot continue on.
And I promise I care about those things after I have coffee. Before that, it's all questionable.
Before that,
okay?
It's this face right here.
That's a very real face, okay?
This is a real face. Yes.
I can't change who I am.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
But listen, we all have broken plays. That's a silly one for us, but realistically,
but real.
it's not that far off, because this idea that words of affirmation is something that you value and you need in your life, I've yet to figure out that she needs it more than once a day. I'm still learning in that. I'm growing in that and figuring out I have to give that back and I have to keep feeding that. That's an example of a broken play.
And then I'm learning that he does need time in the morning to sit and be quiet and drink his coffee. And even though that goes against all of my better judgment, I just stay in the bathroom and I get ready and I don't talk. Well, I talk, but I talk to the dog because...
Or sometimes the more realistic story is that you start talking to me from in the bathroom while brushing your teeth and expect that I can understand what you're saying. I'm just throwing it out there.
I'm just saying that also
We've got
works.
things to work on still,
Right,
okay?
right.
Is what we're trying to say.
Right.
Listen, but maybe a more in-depth one that has truly been a broken play that we've had to work through is for the better part of 6 years of our marriage, we were stuck on a very broken play related to one particular issue that took us a while to figure out. And I will just let you figure out what we needed to figure out because you're all smart people and you have children in the room too. So maybe that's you. Maybe it took us time to figure that out, that the same broken play over and over again does not fix itself. It doesn't heal itself. We got to keep working. We got to keep trying new things. But one of the things we learned is it's in running that same frustrating broken play, it's amazing. Maybe you can relate to this, how you can feel such deep love and deep frustration toward the same person at the same time. I feel so in love with you. I know I love you with everything that I've got, but also...
You're driving me crazy.
Please go away.
Driving
All at the
me
same
crazy.
time, we work through those things.
Right. So here's one of the things we want you to know is you don't have to keep running the same broken play. You don't have to keep running the same broken play. Throw a flag on the pet play. Don't keep running it. Learn how to figure out how to fix a play, come up with a new play, and that's what we're going to talk more about.
And it's not just for marriage, okay? So it's important in marriage to figure out where are those broken plays that we need healing, that we need to try running something new. But it's beyond that in life. In all of our relationships, there are times that we have to do this, but even in our own personal lives, there are times that we've got to be willing to kind of call a timeout or throw the flag and go, okay, this isn't taking me where I want to go. I need to take a next step toward a different direction or toward a better play. And one of the things I love about this church is we see life change happening all the time in this church, and I will never get tired of it. This week we had 4 people, completely unprompted, just show up in our office who have been walking away from God for years and have finally decided it's time to get life figured out again. And we got to talk to them and lead them toward Jesus. And it was such an awesome experience to have in the office this week. Even last week after I taught, we had 3 different couples come up and all with different stories share the idea that they're ready to turn the page and start following Jesus in their relationship. And I love that. I love the next steps that people are taking, and it's so important because when you focus on faith, you grow in exponential ways. You grow across the board. You grow in relationships. You grow in your marriage. You grow in your personal walk with Christ. Taking next steps of faith is Taylor Swift approved. everybody. It is Taylor Swift. See, she says yes. Take that next step of faith.
So we're going to go to Ephesians here in a second. And what Paul is saying in Ephesians references a new way to live when you're in Jesus. And so if you call Thrive your home and you feel like you have a relationship with God, this is literally your charge. This is what God says you were made to do. If you are new to church or you're just getting your feet wet, it's just good advice. It's just good advice to live by. And it's Ephesians 4:2. It says, be patient with each other, making allowance for each other's faults because of your love.
Which I think is a really beautiful thought, but if we're being honest in our marriages, sometimes we're better at showing this to other people than we are to our own spouse. I'm just willing to call the kettle black in my own relationship. Sometimes I'm better at doing this and making allowances for people's imperfections and not doing so well in our marriage, because it's simple. When you look at people around you, we all have mistakes. We all have faults. No perfect people are allowed here, which means you're welcome. I'm welcome. Like, no perfect people means we all need grace and we all need forgiveness and we all make those mistakes. And so we have to give each other room to also be human and figure out how do we move forward inside of that humanity and love our spouse the same way that we're willing to try our coworkers or friends or other people around us.
And it can be really challenging. We all have very different jobs, but almost every single person in this room who does have a job interacts with people during the day, whether it's over the phone or the computer, in person. We have jobs where we literally serve and care for people all day long. I'm not sure if you know, he's a pastor, and then I run a nursing home. So we literally are caring for people from the moment we wake up, sometimes in the middle of the night, all the way until we get home at the end of the day. So it is a deliberate choice to care for our spouse when we are exhausted, when we feel like we've already used up 95% of our happy energy and all we got left is 5. Guess what? You better make that into a big 5%. Because our job is to care and love for the people that we are partnered with.
Yeah, and when we don't do that well, that's when tension creeps in. That's when the broken plays start repeating and we start seeing those cycles because we just have nothing left to give at the end of the day, or we just aren't willing to put in that effort with our spouse. And so we've got to figure out a better way to run better plays and get out of this broken cycle and to change the whole playbook. Because if the play's not working, you don't quit the team, you run a new play. And you got to learn how to do that. If the play's not working, don't quit the team, run a new play. Well, that's halftime. We'll be back after these messages.
My favorite part was watching Van watch that commercial. She was like this. Ooh, ooh. That was better than the commercial.
Nope.
Okay.
Chuck Testa.
Nope. So we are back. We left off with, if the play's not working, you don't quit the team, you run a new play, which I just for 1 second want to camp here. Too often we hear of couples around us and marriages around us that are, crumbling and breaking and splitting ways. And that is why we think this is so important to be talking about this, because it's not something as simple as changing teams or changing players. But it really is just changing the play that you're working. And so in order to do that, we have to figure out what's the new play going to be.
Yeah, and so if you brought your Bibles, flip to Ephesians, the book of Ephesians. It's in the New Testament. It's after Jesus has already shown up on the scene and then actually left again. And we are talking about Paul and his words. He's giving us very simple, practical advice in the book of Ephesians. And in this one, it's all about relationships and how do we change the way that we're living in a way that changes the world around us. And in this one in particular that we're going to in Ephesians 4, it's not even emphasizing on marriage. It's not even emphasizing your relationships. It's really about you and starting there and making sure we're bringing the right things to the table. And so in Ephesians 4, 31 to 32, it lists some strong contrasts between how we can live and how we should live, where he says this: get rid of all bitterness, rage and anger, brawling and slander, along with every form of malice. Be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other, just as in Christ God forgave you. Jesus came to bring forgiveness. He came to model that. And if you were here last week and we talked about relationships, the idea is that you are called to show Jesus to your spouse and to help your spouse look more like Jesus. That's the number one goal in front of us. And so in this, it's a really simple comparison, and I'll just help you see this between these two verses. The comparison that we see here, we take bitterness, and he's in exchange saying, how about you forgive each other instead? And this anger that's coming to the table, how about instead we bring a little bit of compassion? When we brawl, when there's brawling and slander, how about we change that for kindness? And every form of malice, that's like a $1 million word for evil. So exchange evil for Christ. Like, it's this beautiful contrast between all of the ways that we could live and all the natural instincts that come out of us when we bring our brokenness to the table. And how do we transform ourselves to look more like Christ in the relationship, in the world around us? How do we look like Christ? And instead of bringing to my spouse bitterness, anger, slander, malice, how about instead kindness, compassion, and forgiveness? Looking like Christ. That's the idea. And this word, this clear word right here, forgiving, that is the word that we need to bring to the table in our relationships. That word forgiveness in the original language means to freely give grace. Freely give. I'm not looking for anything in exchange. I'm not looking for you to bring anything other than yourself to the table. There's no hesitation. There's no payback. It's just forgiveness. I'm bringing forgiveness to the table because that's the way that we look like Christ in this.
Absolutely, yeah. So when we forgive, that's when we resemble God's character. And if you think about it, God's already forgiven us way more than we're ever going to be able to forgive our spouse, right? Way more forgiveness has been already given to us than what we are called to give to our partner, to anybody in a relationship, to your spouse. You are called to forgive them, and that is when you really show God's character.
And when you start running next level plays, when those plays start changing. I had this thought with this, and it should shake you a little bit to think about the fact that we do this to our spouse, but why in the world would I hold something against you that God's already let go of? If God let go of it, why am I still feeling like I have the right to hold on to this, that I have the right to hold this against you, that I have the right to look at you differently because you did this wrong, when God offers grace freely already? So God's forgiven it. I should learn how to do the same thing.
Absolutely. And when we commit to positive progress, we go away from that negative attitude. So you take that negativity and everything that's going along with the conflict or the bad play that's going on in your marriage, and you move forward towards that positive progress.
Yeah, and it's hard. It's
Yeah.
hard.
Oh, yeah.
It's hard to do because we all have those negative pieces that we've experienced. There's been pain, there's been brokenness. We experience that, but you have to choose to move forward in that. You can't just sit there and wallow in it and keep running that same broken play. You've got to choose to move forward. There's a great quote by C.S. Lewis that I want to share that really models that well. It says, "Getting over a painful experience is much like crossing monkey bars. You have to let go at some point in order to move forward." Some of you in your marriages have been holding on to the same bar for years. You've been holding on to the same broken play. You've been holding on to the same piece that you have not yet forgiven your spouse for, or the same characteristic that they bring to the table day after day because that's who they are, that you just hold against them. You've got to learn how to let go of those things in order to reach out to the next bar, in order to move forward to a new place. So you have got to start by letting go. And that's a personal thing. That's not even, I need my spouse to let go. No, I need to let go. They need to let go, and together we can move forward into a new play together.
And we're not naive, we're not crazy. We know there's going to be scars, right? There's going to be memories, bad memories, feelings. But when you are choosing to let go of those and move forward, that's really when forgiveness starts. You're saying, you know what? I'm going to let all of it go, and I'm going to move forward in this relationship.
Yeah, you give each other grace, and you move on to the next play. Move on to a new play. Some of you just need to hear that over and over today. It's okay. Move on to the next play. Move on to something different. And that play is different for every one of you. A lot of times when we teach, we like to give a very practical, tangible, here's what you can go home and do today to change something. And this is one of those things where it's hard to do that because every one of you in your marriages or in your relationships have different broken plays. What works for you doesn't work for the person next to you, unless they're your spouse, and you're working together on this thing. Everyone is so different in what they bring. And if you're part of a small group, you're going to dig into that this week. And I encourage you, if you're not yet part of a small group, jump in. Sign up for one of those at the Next Steps table. Let us know on the Connect card online or however it is, because that's a great way to keep growing and to help each other, because you can get other couples together and figure out how do we help each other navigate through where each of us are broken, where each of us have these faults or these things that we're bringing to the table. The other thing, I talked about this book last week. and I'll talk about it again, is this book, Sacred Marriage by Gary Thomas. If you haven't read this and you want to take some things to the next level in your faith and in your faith together as a married couple, this is a great book, and I've got some on hand at any one of the merch stores all around the arena today. You can stop by and get it. And you know who approves of this book?
Oh my gosh.
Taylor. She does. So if she says, yes, get this book, and she's excited, you could be too. That's all I got to say.
All right, so we're going to hit you with some Playbook pro tips. This is what we think you should think about. 1, the best time to work out a new play is not in the middle of the game. So if you and your spouse are in the middle of an argument, that is not the time to figure out, hey, our technique for arguing is not working. That is not the right time. The time is when everything is copacetic, everything is good. And then you start thinking about, really, when we yell and we slam the doors or we give each other the silent treatment and someone sleeps on the couch, that's a broken play, right? It's not working and it's not solving our problem. But in the heat of the moment, that is not the time to figure out what your best play is. You do that when there's calm, right? And everything is going okay.
I think it sounds super elementary to do that, though, to go, okay, well, let's sit down and let's talk about how we resolve these issues when they come up. But if you don't do that, you're never going to find a new way to move forward. And if you don't do it in a place where you're level-headed and cool and not arguing with each other, you're not going to find a way to move past that broken play. So you just got to do the hard work of it.
Absolutely. You also have to agree to run the same play. If one of you thinks that walking away in conflict works and the other one doesn't, you're not on the same team, right? You got to be running the same play and be in agreement, which is why you plan ahead and you talk about it.
Yeah. I would also say this one. Remember that you're not opponents, you're teammates. Some of you treat your spouse like they are the enemy, like they are the problem. And if they would just fix this, then our marriage would be fine. Your spouse is not the problem. The problem is the problem. So work with your spouse to figure out how do we tackle this thing and how do we move on to a new play? How do we move past this into something that works better? And don't forget this, at one point in your life, you liked each other.
That's true.
If you didn't, you wouldn't have gotten married. So peel back the layers and figure out how do we get back to a place where we just like doing life together. And then from that place, start writing some new plays and figure out how do we move to the next level on this. And then lastly, here's a great one. Forgiving someone can't change the past, but it can change your future. Things have happened. Okay, good. So give each other grace and move on to that next play and change the future. We're not going back to that play again. We're not going to go back and recycle this moment. We're going to move on into something better. And honestly, in your marriage, if you're trying to make your marriage look like Jesus or the relationships around you look like Jesus, if you don't offer forgiveness, by default, you cannot look like Jesus. Jesus came to give forgiveness. Jesus came to give grace. Jesus came to pave a way so that you and God could have a right-standing relationship. If you aren't willing to do that with your spouse, you're pretty much telling yourself and them it's not worth looking like Jesus. And that's our goal as followers of Christ, is to look like Christ. So offer forgiveness, offer it freely and offer it first, and then move on to the next play. For every one of us, it's different. The next play is different. And so we want you to go home with that homework, really, of figuring out what is the next play for us, how do we move past any broken areas into something better. But regardless of what play it is for you or what relationship you're even thinking of as we talk about this is our number one goal. Forgive and move forward. Stop running the same broken play. Forgive each other and move forward to something better, to the next play ahead of you.
Absolutely. We're going to throw the QR codes back up on the screens. We would love for you to let us know if we can be praying for you and for your marriage, your relationships, your friendships. If this is all new to you and you're thinking, you know what, first I got to get right with God before I get right with my partner, let us know that too. We would love to get you connected. We'd love to get you resources and be praying.
Absolutely. Why don't we do this? We'll end with prayer for each and every one of you today, whether you're married or will be married someday or just have relationships around you, which should then include all of us. And we'll just pray God's blessing over that, and we'll turn you loose for some more fun today. God, we thank you for an opportunity to gather to have a little bit of fun and to just remember that it's okay to laugh and smile and remember that life is great. God, thank you for the many blessings you give us. And I pray that in our marriages, God, you would give us that same perspective, that it's okay to let go, to move forward, and to figure out how to correct things that aren't working, how to move into something that's better for us, something that will bring better results and more fruit in our relationships. God, I pray over marriages right now that are broken, that are stuck, on repeat with the same broken plays. Lord, I pray that you give them a breakthrough this week, that you help them to see a miracle step forward in their marriage and in their lives, that they can find and follow you better together. I pray for those in this room who will be married someday. God, would you prepare their hearts? Would you prepare them as individuals to be the strongest representation of Christ they can possibly be when they get to that stage? And Lord, I pray for those in this room who just need grace in their life. They know that they've made mistakes. They know that they've been running broken plays, but they need your help. God, would you give them that grace today as people turn to you and say, Jesus, lead me forward. God, we thank you for the work that you do. And we ask for your blessing over these marriages, over our relationships, and over our lives. In Jesus' name, amen.